To introduction, Indonesia country located off the coast of mainland Southeast Asia in the Indian and Pacific Ocean. The capital, Jakarta, is located near the northwestern coast of Java. In the early 21st century, Indonesia was the most populous country in Southeast Asia and the fourth most populous in the world. Indonesia is the largest country in Southeast Asia, with a maximum dimension from east to west about 3,200 miles and an extent from north to south of 1,100 miles. It shares a border with Malaysia in the northern part of Borneo and with Papua New Guinea in the center of New Guinea. Indonesia is composed of some 17,000 islands, of which more than 7,000 are uninhabited. Almost 3 of 4 of Indonesian area is embraced by Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Western New Guinea, Celebes, Java, and the Moluccas account for most of the country remaining area.
Issue in Indonesia. First, the collapse of Indonesian currency and the consequent exposure of the private sector to massive and payable foreign debt has had a devastating impact on employment, especially in urban areas. Accurate figures on the extent of job losses are impossible to obtain, but most estimates put the figure at around 2 million. Second, the industry which felt the most immediate effect was in construction, where estimate 1 million workers have been laid off because much short-term foreign borrowing had been directed into city building and infrastructure projects. Indonesia had experienced strong employment growth for the past several years, but it is the jobs in the new growth areas which have been most vulnerable to change economic consequences. Third, inflation areas due to pressure from the supply side, inflation minus cost from the demand side, demand pull inflation, and from inflation expectation. Factors in the occurrence of cost push inflation can be due to the depression of currency exchange rates, the effect of foreign inflation, especially trading partner countries. There are few job vacancies that accommodate job seekers. The number of job seekers is not proportional to the field jobs owned by the state of Indonesia. Lack of expectancy faced by job seekers, large number of unskilled human resources be one of the reasons for the increasing number and employment in Indonesia.
Prior to the Asian financial crisis, the budget had a modest surplus and public debt was low. The Asian financial crisis had significant impact on the Indonesian economy. Government debt increased dramatically in 1997 and 1998, reaching nearly 100% of GDP in 1999, reflecting the cost of providing liquidity and eventually the takeover of the banking system. The financial crisis caused political upheaval in Indonesia, resulting in the resignation of the country's long-serving president. Today, the parliament is freely elected and with considerable power, particularly in the area of budgeting. Even at the height of the fiscal crisis, deficits were manageable, reaching a high of 2. This situation arose as a result of significant expenditure cuts, primarily in public investment and other development expenditures to compensate for lower revenue levels and rising interest expenditures to finance the growing levels of debt. This situation reflects both the steadily improving economic performance and the proceeds from the sale of assets acquired during the crisis. Second, as part of the decentralization program, a significant amount of operating expenditure, salaries, and other operating costs was converted into transfer payments to regional governments. Third, food and electricity subsidies were a significant drain on the budget. The government has also prioritized strengthening the budget's revenue side by increasing the share of non-oil and gas receipts.
Monetary policy. The definition of the monetary policy is the government effort to control or direct the macroeconomy toward a desired better started by the controlling the money supply. The better situation referred here is when equivalent production increase and or purchase stability is maintained so that inflation is controlled. Then another definition of the monetary policy that we can understand is as the policy of the monetary authority of central bank is the form of the controlling the amount of money in order to achieve the desired development of economic activity. Next, in Indonesia, they try to create and maintain the stability of their money called rupiah. Rupiah value stability refer to the continuous stability of the purchase and good and service which can be reflected in low and stable inflation rate as well as price stability which is reflected in a just rate stability of the rupiah with currency of the Indonesia trading partner. Next, Bank Indonesia implement the inflation targeting framework ITF. The ITF in framework for publicity announcement, inflation target corridor, and monetary policy. Lastly, monetary policy can also be divided into expansive monetary policy and concentration monetary policy. It can be seen that monetary policy is closely related to the financial system of a country.
In conclusion, Indonesia must be wise in organizing measures, especially in employment opportunities. The lack of employment opportunities in the country has led to a lot of unemployment among the population. The rising unemployment rate every year has made Indonesia more backward, especially in terms of process. This country can make observation to neighboring countries such as Singapore and Malaysia, which are becoming more developed. Such enlightenment can give little thought to Indonesia in dealing with this issue. Then, that additionally can lay out strategies that lead toward the decay of the cash supply. Government can either straightforwardly or in a roundabout way decrease the cash supply. Two occasions of this are bringing in obligation on to the public authority and helping the interest paid on bond to allure more financial banker to gain them. The last arrangement advance import and diminish trade by raising the conversion scale of the money because of expanded request. It is true from capital inflow if your rates are expanding contrast with global rates. To wrap things up, the public authority can give endowment or force regulation to support business people to be more useful and raise their result. Individual will actually want to purchase more things because of expanded creation, acquiring how much cash dissemination back into balance. The public authority should assume their part additionally to control from expansion or empty occur in the country. It is on the ground that expansion and emptying were bad by any means, assuming it occur in industry and will influence our economy moreover.
Indonesia is home to the world's fourth largest population of young people, but many of them end up surviving on odd jobs to make a living. It's estimated that more than half the working population in the country is employed in the informal sector, which is our focus today in the latest in our week-long series on the young and jobless. Our Indonesia correspondent Karishma Vaswani reports from the city of Makassar in South Sulawesi.
Potoroi Port in Makassar, bustling with fishermen selling their goods at dawn. This city has historically been one of the centers of trade and commerce in Indonesia. But for many of the youth here, it's now getting harder and harder to find work.
This part of Indonesia has one of the higher school dropout and youth unemployment rates in the country. Many of the young people here end up doing odd jobs or fishing to make ends meet. Experts say the fact that so many of Indonesia's youth population end up in the informal sector is one of the main reasons why this country's economy could fail to reach its full potential.
22-year-old Warda is one of the lucky ones. She's now the proud of. Warda got help, a 3-month technical training course paid for by the International Labour Organization. But there's no security net working in the informal sector. She wants to turn her business into a legitimate one.
If I can, I want to register my business so it becomes a legal entity. That way I can get a bank loan easily. But I don't know how to do that.
But most Indonesians never even have the chance to think that big. 21-year-old Razdi had big dreams, like so many of his peers when he first got to Jakarta 5 years ago. But he didn't have the right qualifications, so couldn't get a job. Now he sells magazines at traffic junctions, trying to make ends meet.
I want to do work that fits my skills. Not like this. I want to get a real job, but I only have an elementary school education, so it's impossible.
This is an exceptionally young country, but the full potential of Indonesia's youth isn't being realized. The challenge for Indonesia is to tap this huge source of talent, to ensure that young people here get a shot at making it in life. Karishma Vaswani, BBC News.